All right, it is absolutely crazy some of the stuff that they look at when these guys do get caught. They they look so deep into all of your likes, dislikes, what you've done online, and it's crazy to think, like, of course, if they're saying that this guy is the one who ended up taking out Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, then yeah, it explains why, right? We're totally okay with that. But man, the how deep they go on what they like, dislike, and every little action they take online. And you think that they're not doing it for those of you that aren't taking out CEOs. But of course, now they have ID'd, or said that they have ID'd, the guy who took out or offed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson as Luigi Mangione. Of course, Luigi was an ex-Ivy League student. Now, the first thing I thought of when I read about him being ID'd and that he was an ex-Ivy League, and I was totally thinking blank and crossbones. But again, that's just me and my crazy, crazy hat. But tech whiz Luigi, 26 years old of Towson, was taken into custody Monday morning at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after an intense manhunt following the cold-blooded taking out of Thompson outside of a Manhattan hotel last week. He has not been charged yet. It says the former perp school valedictorian was caught with a manifesto that appeared to list grievances with the healthcare industry, including taking on their enormous profits and allegedly shady motives. Now, what do you want to bet that they're also going to basically pin certain places on the internet for saying that, oh, healthcare is bad and all of this? I can just see that coming. It said that he is believed to have acted alone, and it was unclear if he had yet made any statements. Mangione has subscribed to anti-capitalist and climate causes, in addition to showing he despises the healthcare industry in the country. Notice how they have now, of course, clinged on to everything that he ended up watches and is subscribed to. It says, according to law enforcement sources citing online activity gleaned by authorities. It says on the Goodreads website, Mangione's account shows that he particularly likes ranging from Socrates from Bruce Lee to wacky anti-establishment Ted Kaczynski, the infamous Unabomber, who terrorized the country for nearly 2 decades by planning big explosives before he was nabbed in 1996. So again, and I don't know if this is, it says surveillance photos captured from the person of interest. So basically they caught him wearing almost the exact same thing. I don't know. Seems a little dumb to me for an Ivy League student, but you know, who knows? We'll cover all of the rest of what is going on, including what they are calling as X. Again, something that they are saying that is popping up. It's a mystery illness. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. I mean, the guy literally wears the same, almost the same outfit, and what a shot! Like, they got this from the police cam. He goes through the little window to look and to almost get that same shot. I mean, it seems pretty concrete right now, doesn't it? Well, the whole thing is being questioned by our entire community because people are just wondering what the hell is really the truth here. There's a lot of things that encircled that same CEO that were not related to denying claims. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And, of course, try to be polite. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. Thank you for your comment. I missed you on the last Marfoogle News short, so thank you. And then, Dex, who was the second person? It came right as we were ending that I saw.
Lord McCormick.
Lord McCormick. Thank you so much for the super chat, and I appreciate you. And thank you for supporting Independent. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
All right, so the United CEO thing is what is crazy to me is they caught this guy. There are so many people that get away with this every single day in Chicago. There's you know how many cold cases are around the country, and especially a lot of the big cities that just don't go answered. Frankly, the cops give up extremely quick, or they might even know, but if they don't have a solid case and if it's something that's not that important, they don't really try to make one. I've seen this. My own personal family friend lost her son to, basically somebody shanked him in the chest, and they know who it is, but they have not done anything about it. That is because both people were homeless, and they just didn't care. I'm telling you, stuff like that does not get any kind of airtime, and it does not get solved. But when somebody like this gets taken out, of course, there's a manhunt. Why is there not a manhunt every time this happens, right? Well, I guess there would be kind of a bi-daily manhunt going in every single city across the country. But if you're rich and important, you get a manhunt, at least if you perish by the hands of another. As far as this goes, the timing of it, again, is just very, very crazy with a probe that was going into the CEO or to the company, United Healthcare, and, of course, even the keyword of trading and, of course, insider, right? Both of those were included in what people have been talking about. But, of course, we're not trying to think of crazy things here. We're just following the narrative that they give us, right? Dex, what do you think about how they finally caught him in a McDonald's, and it looks like he was almost wearing the same exact thing like an idiot? To me, yeah. It seems stupid.
Well, yeah, they caught him. They caught him in not only was he in a McDonald's, but he had been filmed in a McDonald's before, or at least observed by others who said they had saw him before the incident. That he would hang out in a McDonald's with his laptop. So he was hanging out at this McDonald's in Pennsylvania with his laptop, and the person who saw him said they thought he looked like the guy from what they could tell. So they called the police, and then when the police showed up, they said he started shaking. Very, nervously, obviously, and presented a fake ID. And then, of course, they ran it and said, no, this is fake. And then they went through his stuff and detained him and found, presumably what is the weapon that they said he used, what is, I guess, writings and other things that tied him to it, among other things. So, yeah, at this point, they're basically saying it's the guy. And he's been perp walked, and even they have a high-res photo that just came out 30 minutes ago of him in a jail cell.
So why did he even give a fake ID? Did he have warrants at the time of this? They didn't really know who. Yeah, I don't understand. Did they know who it was? Did they know it was him? Because this happened pretty quickly over a day. Did they know his name before they found him? Were they searching for him, or did they just happen to find this guy that was in the McDonald's shaking? Because cops do that all the time. If you look nervous, they'll just screw with you for no reason. So did they know his name? Do you know if at the time?
No, I don't think so. They had gotten a call. My understanding is they had gotten a call from someone in the restaurant who said he looked like the person that they were looking for, but I don't think they knew him by name, other than they knew him by the fake names that he had used.
See, does an ex-Ivy League student wear the same exact outfit that he did during a literal, taking somebody out? That to me sounds extremely sus. Like, you would think he would be wearing a red sweater for the rest of his life if he was going to wear a hoodie at all. When you see pictures of him without the hoodie, without the covering over his face, I would have never guessed that's the same person. I mean, I'm probably one of many that, like, Clark Kent puts on his glasses and you're like, wow, that's not Superman. But again, I mean, it looks so much like the picture. I'm sure there's been a lot of calls on a lot of hooded guys with masks, especially if there's probably been a bunch in Seattle, because that's like the outfit for almost all of downtown Seattle. So I'm just surprised that they just randomly popped up. There's a guy a screen name on Call of Duty that's McDonald's free Wi-Fi, and like now I think he's probably gonna have to change his screen name now. I always thought of like Starbucks is where they hang out to get free Wi-Fi, but I guess McDonald's is the ticket too. And he was hanging out there on the Wi-Fi doing what?
Did you see a picture of him there? Did we know he was wearing the same thing?
He's in the back of a police car.
No, that's a cab photo.
That's a
cab photo they put out. Crime Stoppers put that out. That was captured before.
Oh,
yeah, that's not the
cabs don't
that's
look.
A cab.
Oh, cabs don't look like that here. That has maybe it was an auction cop. This was an auction cop car then, because this is not what cabs look like here or ever have looked like here. This is where the shotgun goes in a cop car. That rack right there is where they usually have the shotguns. So obviously this is an auction car. I did not know that. So that makes a lot more sense. So was this on the day that he did it?
Yeah, I don't know where this photo, how far in advance this was. Obviously, it was before he did it. They had found a handful of photos of him, smiling at one place or in a store at another place on a phone, and then this one in a cab where he's sort of peering through the window.
So
I guess there's like a dash cam or something there.
Okay, so even more suspicious. He's leaning forward, looking right into the camera like, hey, get a shot of me. Who does that? I mean, maybe you might if you're giving directions, but I mean, like, hey, can you go over there? But he's looking directly at it. I would like to see the video of that. Like, did he just casually look over and they got that screenshot? Or did he just literally pop his head in so you could get a perfect screenshot of him wearing the hoodie and the covering? I mean, just something about this does not sit well. And then, as you guys know, in Ivy League schools, there's these groups. They are real. It's not like these are fake. The debate is over whether they actually have a lot of secretive stuff. I mean, they literally have secretive stuff going on, but whether they are, bad guys, right? But they've had those groups for a very long time, and I think it's just very, very odd. Or is it somebody in one of those Ivy League super creepy groups did not like? Like, this guy picked on the wrong guy, and now is all of a sudden the PATSY. I don't know. It just seems off. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Taiwan raises alert as China deploys 90 ships in likely exercises. Now, we thought this was going to go off this weekend, and I think it's actually really weird that over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, this did not happen, and now they're deploying 90 ships. Dex, this rings alarms for me, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we expected it over the weekend, and I guess they took their time. But yeah, they're now raising the alarm. They raised the alert level Monday today, saying that China has reserved airspace, deployed naval and Coast Guard vessels in what security sources call the first military drills across a broad swath of the region's water. A senior Taiwan security official said China had nearly 90 Navy and Coast Guard ships near Taiwan. The southern Japanese island and the East and South China Seas, of which around 2/3 were naval. So it's a significant number that's moving in. The question that we keep asking is, when is this not going to be a drill? The whole point of what they do is to normalize it. So every single time this happens, it can be the real deal. And that's the thing. That's the whole point. It's so that you never know which time is going to be real, because it's going to look just like this.
Yeah, which one of these is going to be the real thing? The best way to kind of have everyone calm is to do a drill. You can move things into place with as little, panic as as possible. People just, oh, it's just another drill. Well, then last second, they go from being a drill to being the real thing. They've already had all of their planes going into their ADIZ every single day, to the point where the news doesn't even cover it. I was just talking about this last week when we talked about how Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was supposed to be the kickoff of this. What made this go later than what it was expected? Because they talked about this. Obviously, when they do this, they are telling them, they're saying, hey, we're going to reserve this airspace. We're going to be doing, live fire drills. We're going to be in this area. So, you are well notified that we're going to be doing a massive drill. They then can surround the island and, they might not send carriers from across the country because they think it's some sort of drill. But think about this. 3 U.S. carriers just moved or are moving into the South China Sea. And you, of course, have our allies also moving their stuff into the South China Sea. This is after recent claims by China saying that they have satellites that can now detect with microwaves all of our submarines in the water. They have a new stealth tech that can go on their planes and jets that can virtually make them invisible to radar, both kinds of major radar. And they have a satellite technology that can render our carriers, our destroyers, all of our early warning systems null and void, essentially saying that it can jam those, which is our defense. I mean, if we can't see a missile coming, then how are we going to protect our carriers? How are we going to protect the destroyers? If you can't, detect something coming, how are you going to shoot it down? So yeah, I would keep your heads on a swivel right now, and of course keep your eyes peeled, because right now, look at the time frame. We're a little over 40 days away from the switch in power, and look what is happening. We didn't mention it on the video prior, but that T group, the person that they're talking about that just took over Syria, that's being PR'd as this revolutionary. There's even rumors that JB, our current prez, is talking about, or that there's chatter about possibly removing him off of the watch list. I'm just like blown away. The guy was literally part of groups that would walk in with a chest-mounted explosive and take people out. I mean, that's nuts. And they're going to possibly take him off of a list? I mean, gosh, if people can't smell the fish here, I don't know what. They're going to drown. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about U.S. military alarmed by Russian nuclear weapon platform in orbit at the same time?
So a Russian spacecraft launched higher than most satellites has long had the Pentagon worried, and new revelations about what it contains have made all those concerns greater. Now, this is the one that we talked about earlier in the year. It was launched in February, actually earlier last year, just a few weeks before the invasion of UKR. Russian Cosmos 2553 spacecraft is normally built to test out newly developed onboard instrument and systems, according to the report from the New York Times. However, the mysterious satellite system contains a dummy warhead, a precursor of what could come should the Russians decide to arm the craft for real. So is it really a dummy? I don't know how they know if it's a dummy or not. I'm sorry, I said earlier it's the one we talked about earlier this year. It's not. But this is the scenario that they talked about earlier this year. It's the scenario we talk about for a long time, about what a warhead in space, especially sitting on a satellite dormant, ready to go at any moment, what that would mean. So, the whole idea here is very much one that we've talked about a high altitude EMP, or even a higher altitude nuke to take out satellites. So all of those would have massive effects across everyone's satellites. So sort of a, if we're going to go down, we're all going down type scenario. But at the same time, depending on where it is positioned over the globe at the time when it detonates, everyone on the planet down below is going to have an electromagnetic pulse from that nuclear blast.
Yeah, and if they do an EMP, we can't just destroy every city in Russia because they did an EMP. We're supposed to respond in like kind. I do not think that anybody would say, okay, they EMP'd, they knocked down our entire grid. We're supposed to do the same back to them. Russia's been making mobile nuclear bunkers and been doing all of these weird things. They have production up like insane amounts. I mean, they are in a war right now, but they're making their country into a war machine right now. Meanwhile, the U.S. is constantly putting out information from our own Pentagon saying that, oh, well, this is pretty bad. This is at the bottom of the barrel. This is, we can see the floor in this stockpile. We've given all of our stuff, we've either left it in the Middle East or given it away to another country. At the same point, it's many of our theories that there is a lot of people on the payroll of other countries that are currently sitting in office right now, not just even talking about up high. I'm talking about down low on the state level. A lot of us believe that, how many of these guys are on a payroll? It says, as scary as the concept of space nukes sounds, it wouldn't necessarily harm life on Earth unless you consider eliminating all satellites in its vicinity harm, in which case the people down on the planet below would be seriously screwed. As far as an EMP weapon, nobody actually perishes from the EMP itself. That EMP would knock down our grid, which would knock down our infrastructure, which would actually take a lot of lives. They say 90% of us would perish in the first year, and that is because our infrastructure would go. So the timing, again, people have to pay attention. I think that overall there's like this subconscious thing that tells us it's never going to happen, just the same way that you never think you're going to be in an earthquake. You don't think about earthquakes until it happens. Now, again, most of you are in a place that probably has never experienced an earthquake. A lot of you East Coast people are in the Midwest. Maybe you haven't experienced one. But in the West Coast, we've experienced many, and they are never expected. It's just like, boom, all of a sudden you're shaking, and it comes out of nowhere. There's no predictive anything. They say there will be, but again, this is how I feel like about this. With CV, on that note, CV, I did see that coming along with many of you because there was all of these weird things going on. They were drilling for a very certain scenario. They were doing tabletop exercises of a very certain scenario. Look at what they're doing now. It's really obvious what they are preparing for. Giving the Congress satellite phones, doing, coming up with Operation Starfall. Go look that one up. Putting up balloons in the event we lose all communications, asking small businesses to come up with, rapidly deployable checkpoints and broadband cell phones that don't require the towers. And then, of course, China, they're telling us that they are in our infrastructure, in every bit of our communications. If you're going to try to take a country down or anything, if you're trying to take a building down, you knock out the power, you knock out the comms. That is the first thing. It is the most logical sense. Now we have this thing, which they say is a dummy warhead in a spacecraft by Russia. At the same time, China is deploying 90 ships as part of a possible, drill. At the same time as a whole government is being taken over in the Middle East and, regime changed. You can't make this stuff up. It's just insane how life has been going right now. But one thing I don't think is insane is one of these events happening. People really cannot fathom. When they said that you can't wrap your head around it, you really can't. Thinking of a country, the whole United States, without power, that in our blood just doesn't make sense because we're America. We've been raised to understand that we are the most powerful and the unstoppable force, the sleeping giant. Well, if you go in and pop somebody while they're sleeping, then they never wake up. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and the whole idea that this is a dummy is still questionable. What's being trickled out is the fact that Space Force has spent the greater part of the year investigating and trying to learn as much as they possibly can about Cosmos 2553 because it might be something more serious than being a dummy. It might actually be a real warhead. And I think that was, this is part of the scare that we heard about back in the earlier part of this year when everybody said there's something going on in space and Russia's doing it. So that was probably the beginning of the leaked information, but certainly it has carried on as far as the amount of research they're trying to do, they being Space Force, to try to determine, is this legit? Because if this is a nuke sitting up there, it'd be the first proof that we have that the EMP is locked and loaded, so to speak.
Is it possible? Can you grab the article of the representative saying we need to declare this or make this public right now? The public needs to know about this. Do you remember that? It was around Valentine's Day, February 14th. On Valentine's Day, they launched a mysterious thing, or around that time period, within a day or so, you have representatives saying everybody needs to know this is a big deal. People criticize that representative saying, hey, you weren't supposed to say anything about this. So whether it's Ganda or not, look at the messaging that's being put in the back of our heads. By the way, Kenny Crowder, thank you so much. Hello, Adam, Dex Mods, and Foogle fam. Eyes open, head on a swivel. Stay safe. Love your way. Kenny, thank you. And by the way, I did say thank you earlier in the show for what you did on news. I appreciate that. Thank you for repeating that over here. And then Saren, thank you for subscribing. Looks like DX95, thank you for subscribing as well. Adam Hunt, Fats TV, and then Ben, thank you. And Sheila, thank you for subscribing. Sweatinum Ministries, I want to just say I appreciate you supporting all of this week. Thank you guys for being patient through all of the stream issues. We're not on all of those other platforms right now because of issues with the Restream platform. So again, we're not over on X. We're not anywhere else besides right here and our other channel, at least for the time being until that's fixed. Which it's actually better quality when we only go to here because we don't have to worry about bit rates to everywhere else. But it is definitely not great. Losing the DLive community and everybody else that's over there and over on X. So we will try to fix that as soon as we can. And then Bill, thank you for subscribing. People are popping in as we go, so thank you. What do you guys think is in space with this thing? I'll just say this. I think that the predictive programming has been there for a very long time. It all points to really just a couple of things, and that is one of them. Speaking of which, if you want to protect yourself against this, we've been telling you for years. We've been talking about this now for over 5 years. EMP Shield is actually your way to protect yourself against an EMP. So whether it's Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, whoever may try to do this, you want to protect your own stuff. As far as if we've looked at events like Katrina or North Carolina, then you probably know you shouldn't depend on somebody else to come and save you. You really should be looking out for yourself. And honestly, that's why most people prep that have seen events like those. It's like people leave to help their own families when those kind of big events happen. And that is the kind of events that they're talking about right now with all of the events before we change presidents. So make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. It is a device that you can quickly, in less than 10 minutes, put in your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, gas generators, solar generators in the case of the Flex 1500 and the Tactical, and the Bug Out and the Grid Down Bug Out, and even your home. And it will protect you against not only EMP strikes, but also a Carrington level event from the sun. So whether we have a solar event that tries to knock our grid down or does, or an EMP, at least you will know that your own stuff is going to run. That way you can get home to your family or get out to bug out. Have a generator for your house or not have a generator for your house. It's your choice. marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. It gets $50 off per device and it helps our channel. We are up against a mountain of absolute monsters. So thank you guys for helping us out. We are a small channel, independent, no multi-channel network. So thank you guys for being, you guys are our family. You guys are our support. All right. And then South Korea President Yoon banned from foreign travel as leadership crisis deepens. So, as you may know, if you've been following the last weeks of shows, Yoon declared martial law. I mean, actually declared it for about 6 hours. And right when he did it, there were tons of social media videos. Immediately, South Koreans were like, oh my gosh, please, pray for me. We just got put on martial law. We can't talk. We can't do anything. During martial, you can't do anything. Doing a video like this about it would technically be illegal if we had a martial going on, right? And that's exactly what happened. And they said it was for political reasons. Dex, do you want to, I guess, refresh everybody's minds, but also talk about why he's banned from travel?
Well, certainly. So the upheaval over him declaring that restriction on the country there at the time, he said it was political. He said it was because there were people in his government that were in line with North Korea, or pacifists for them, and he was trying to stop that because there was other things that were happening with those people as far as hurting his side of the political spectrum. There's always two sides in most every country. Some have more than two, but yeah. So think of it kind of like we have the right and the left here, similar there. But anyway, through that they were talking about now, because they quickly reversed the order by having Parliament voted out, and then they talked about potentially impeaching him. So now they're banning him from leaving the country because they want to, I guess, hold him accountable and go through the process and make sure that there's, anything that was illegal about what he did. There's, questions about the fact that the military were ordered to stop the lawmakers from coming in. And I've even seen recent interviews where, military officers said, yeah, I was ordered to stand here and blockade them from coming in. It was supposed to be done that way. So, which is what would have happened in a traditional martial type scenario where that law is enacted.
I'm looking up the South Korean, the current defense minister. Basically, he is saying something that's very akin to like how, do you remember when Milley said that he wouldn't, if the Dawn was going to nuke China, he said, I won't push the button for him, or I won't help him. I'm in the middle of this. I'll even call China and give him a heads up that we're about to do it. It feels kind of akin to that, right? The defense minister says, well, even if he did do this again, I wouldn't follow that order. What if, and I'm not saying this because of the side he's on, but what if hypothetically he is somebody who is somewhat of a good person or a good leader, whatever, or maybe he's one of the few, very, very few good people, and I'm not saying he is. He's a politician, no matter what language he speaks. But what if he was in the best interest of his country when he did that, and he was saying, hey, there's some shady stuff here. They're trying to impeach. They're trying to get something else in here, and he did that out of desperation or something. I don't know what actually happened there behind the scenes, because they give us the narrative, and now it really sounds familiar to what has been happening here, what's happening there. Trying to impeach everybody and trying to get everybody that they don't like out of the picture. But now they have an excuse to go after him. Are they going to go after him kind of like he's the South Korean Dawn, right? What if there was something really shady going on? Now, I have thought for a long time, and this might be my internal bias, but that North Korea and South Korea are going to be one of the triggers to a bigger weapon. Dex, am I communicating that clearly enough? Like, how, what if that marshal, him declaring that, was because something extremely scary was going on and he could see it and he tried to stop it, and they can't tell us the full story behind it. And now they get to use that against him.
Well, yeah, certainly. And as much, we don't know the inner workings of it, but it certainly very much sounds like what we've seen in the divide in lots of different countries. And, based on how they describe Yoon versus the other side, that he is part of what's called the People Power Party, I believe is the name of the group, the political party. And it is considered a conservative and right, sided political party for South Korea, as opposed to the opposition there. So certainly there is that conflict going on, and if it follows the same lines as you've seen in other countries, and you could understand how that might be done. But look, Adam, you said it. If his defense ministry is saying, well, we're not going to listen to what he says, maybe in regards to that one thing, if you're G sitting on the other side, I mean, not G, if you're Kim sitting on the other side, you're going, man, things have messed down there. Right now is the time to start messing with them, right? Or if you're Xi, now's the time to tell Kim, hey, well, let's take Taiwan, go mess with South Korea, because their leadership's in shambles at the moment.
And the reason it says acting is because the last one, it doesn't even have a picture for him on this, but it did list he is the acting defense minister because Kim Jong-un resigned because of the Marshall situation, right? So this gentleman was, wait a second. So he served for 93 days before resigning. It seems like almost every single other one at least served a year, the shortest being 230 days on this one. But look, almost everybody did their full term except for 2, and they were still over, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. Since 1968, no one's served. Actually, you can go back as far as you can. Oh, since 1961, they have not had a defense minister serve such a short term. And if you look at this, you can see he resigned because of that event. So I don't know, just something seems super shady about this whole thing. I feel like they're trying to start a war. By they, I mean multiple countries, the people that are really have ulterior goals and motives. But not saying that, that's fact. That's just my thoughts on it. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah. So what side of the aisle was he? Yeah. So now they put in somebody from the left side of the party in acting to replace the guy who was on the right side of the party. And then Israel deploys paratroopers to Syria in defensive activities after fall of Assad. One thing I have thought here is that this was not done just by a little group of, organic this, which, by the way, HTS, do you know how many members are in HTS? I thought it said 5,000 to 10,000 members. Did you know that? It says that there's 5,000 to 10,000 on that the DNI actual government alert about him, that he's part of HTS, and they said that it has 5,000 to 10,000 members. Obviously, that doesn't mean that 5,000 to 10,000 people just took over the entire country. But at the same time, you see all of these, countries now saying that they're, I guess, taking advantage of the situation and bombing this, bombing that. Oh, we're taking out ISIS targets, which aligns with what HTS says. They're against it, even though the same guy was part of another group, Al-Qaeda, and he was obviously, one of, I don't know if he was on the deck of cards, like, the top most wanted, but he has a $10 million bounty on his head. And now you have Israel deploying paratroopers. Now, people get it stuck in the whole thing where they support one country or the other, so they'll automatically just say, oh, yes, this is a good thing. I'm just questioning the fact, and who knows, this could be overall a good thing. My statement is that I totally believe that this is entirely multiple operations going on at the same time, that this is that this is completely and utterly being helped along by one of the major countries. I'm pretty sure those major countries include U.S. and Israel. Is it a bad thing? There's been good things throughout history that they've done in this kind of fashion. But am I going to be a lemming and believe that, oh, this is totally organic and this guy, rose through the ranks from now he's grown as a man and he totally understands it's bad to strap things to your chest and go take out schools. Well, I was young, dumb, and full of explosives. I just don't believe that. I think that this guy, the way that they have pictured him, the way that they have framed him, the softball interview that they had on CNN, and others The other countries, news that we do not receive here in the United States, they have other him sitting down in a chair. If this guy's got a $10 million bounty, you would think that this guy would be immediately snatched up. I mean, he's sitting down for interviews. They catch people that are trying to take out their spouse easier than this. I mean, all they would have to do is call CNN. It's not like they're not on a constant day-to-day communication. So it's obvious that they are allowing this to happen at the very smallest least. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I remember when I was watching his interview, one of the things, I guess what would give credence to the fact that he was large enough to overthrow Assad was that he wasn't just HTS and their 10,000, 15,000, which I think is a 2018 number, size of the organization, but he actually led a town of over 4 million, but he brought together multiple military organizations from other groups. And they're estimating that his troops were around 30,000 strong. So that's a decent size to roll through those cities with. I don't know if all 30,000 were rolling through, but obviously it was enough to, go through each town and take out Damascus over the weekend.
Now, feel free. Right now, you can pop over to Marfoogle News official at Marfoogle. Just type in at Marfoogle and participate in this survey. So, again, do you think... there's 35 minutes left, so we can actually do this. There's 35 minutes left. We can look at the final number at the end of the show. If you want to go over to at Marfoogle, you can participate in this. Do you think the U.S. helped or allowed Syria to be taken over and regime changed? By the way, 190 votes, I mean, heck, what is it? Family Feud surveys 100 people. This is 190 people. 87.9% said yes, the U.S. helped. 9.5% says we didn't help, we allowed. And only 2.6% said, no, this is organic. And keep in mind, the X following over there is not all Foogle fam. In fact, most of the growth over there is just random people seeing random tweets. From the stats, it looks like it's just like a smorgasbord of random people. So, and there's a lot of people, when I say something, certain something in my opinion, there's a lot of people that react to it. That says to me, they don't actually watch the show. They don't know what I'm talking about normally. They're just reacting to the tweet. So again, I think that's a pretty good gauge of where people are on this, but please give us a better one. Go over to at Marfoogle and participate in that. I should, let me see. I think I can, I'll just repost it. So it should be at the top. All right. Otherwise, it's about half a page down. It is from yesterday. All right. And then, and just want to point out, they're doing these paratroopers. It seems to me like major countries are not only helping. You said, it's because they were organizing all of these smaller groups and they were able to all go in there. Seems to me like a lot of these guys probably were wearing some khakis and some blue shirts, but I don't know.
I bet. Yeah, I'm with you, Adam. But I just say his media PR line in that interview was that he was the cultivator or the bringer together of a lot of other groups, and they even said he had better weaponry. Like, he was able to get better weapons than everyone else, and they were able to be better trained, better organized, better weapons. And I'm like, well, where the hell is he getting these weapons from? You know where they're coming from. They're coming from the West somehow through someone else, so that there's plausible deniability.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason it's being asked on the CNN, it was like they were like, okay, what are the questions people are going to have about, like, how the hell did this come out of nowhere? And they asked all of those questions, like super soft, but like, well, what about when someone says that you used to be a part of a group that did absolutely horrific things that people can't even speak about? Well, I've grown as a person, and just like you, I was young at some point. I mean, I used to smash me a mailbox here and there. I might have, threw a rock at a window when I was a kid. I might have walked into a school with a chest full of explosives. But I grew. I'm a man now. I've changed. And, we can all change, can't we? It's like every answer and every question was basically addressing all of the simplest questions that people are going to like, wait, hold on, that doesn't work. Well, what about this? And they're like, let's ask that and have a pre-scripted answer in a pre-scripted interview where the woman speaks English, yet he speaks his language. It just, the whole thing just seems super, super fakey, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. What gets me is on X, when you look at all this, there's not many people saying the same thing. That's what kind of scares me about it, is it's just like how many people are not even asking the questions that they answered in that interview. And then Jay-Z. So a lot of people are talking about this. This is in the entertainment world. Obviously, most of you know who Jay-Z is. If you don't listen to his music, and you probably know he's with Beyonce and that there were this crazy power couple, some of the first rappers to turn billionaires, or music artists to be seriously known billionaires. They, of course, are best friends with former presidents, which, I mean, if you really think about it, let's put it this way. There's not too many people during the embargo that got permission to go to Cuba. They got direct permission to go to Cuba from our former president that served up until 2000. What was that? 2000. I'm trying to think. 2016, right? Yeah, from 2008 to 2016. And now he is coming up in the documents for the Diddy stuff. So he is now accused of doing something horrific, something we don't talk about, to a 13-year-old female. This is absolutely a surprise to a bunch of people. I would say if you look at all of the people that are part of these groups, a part of the after parties and the things like this, I would say most all of them are a part of this. And if not voluntarily, something that they had to do to be in this position that they are in. I'm starting to believe you cannot get to billionaire or something like that without seriously compromising any kind of moral system you have. These people are different, and it truly does make me think that all of the rich people above a certain level have to be evil. Like, you are not allowed to be that rich without being evil. Now, I'm not saying that Jay-Z did this, but this is what is being claimed. Obviously don't want to get in, he's claiming that he wrote a letter basically saying like, oh no, that ain't me. You guys think all entertainment people are the same. I'm not. I'm cool, yo. Everybody else is nasty. He's been hanging out with Diddy for years. He's been going to these parties for years. How do you guys think that Jay-Z is a part of this nasty thing? And if not this thing, do you think he's part of the freak-offs and the parties and things like this? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, what do you think about the whole Jay-Z thing?
Well, this allegation from this person says that it not only was Jay-Z the guilty person according to their allegation, but that both Diddy and another unnamed female celebrity were there and watching. So that's the other question, is like, who is the female? Like, everybody's wondering what name's going to come out of that. Look, all this stuff around, it's like EpiPen all over again, just from a different angle, and a different line of business. But I think, we're probably going to potentially see a lot more of these allegations, and if not even criminal charges in different areas that stem from what potentially has been going on with, Diddy and others, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as this goes, he's calling it blackmail. He's saying that, they're just trying to, he's at the top, so they're trying to come after him. When these things kind of pop up, I don't think it's ever going to go away, whether he did it or not. I don't think the public's ever going to look at him in the same light. And that's the crazy thing, is almost everybody that is attached to this, there's always going to be that thought. There's no putting this back in Pandora's box. there's just not. Dex, go ahead.
Well, wait till you see what corporate does. Like, I'm just thinking in my mind, he's still tied with Beats, right? And Apple. So, like, if corporate starts distancing themselves, that will be an interesting sign.
Oh, is he with Beats? I thought that was Dre. Is that?
Oh, maybe it is. I'm sorry. Maybe I've got it backwards.
He owns Rockaware. He owns a bunch of stuff. He didn't get to a billionaire just through music. Well, he didn't get there through music.
So he's not Beats then, is he?
He could. I mean, but I know 50 Cent is Vitamin Water, or was. Beats by Dre. And then Jay-Z is Rockaware, and I'm trying to think of some of his other companies.
Well, see what other watch what other big company has ties with them. And if they start walking away, then there's more here, potentially.
Well, it seems like almost all of these guys, one by one, are getting disconnected from the corporate, money scheme of things. But I don't know. Will it actually affect him? I'm sure it will affect his brand. I mean, there's no way it wouldn't. And then here comes the Disease X outbreak. Now, just a quick disclaimer again. As far as this goes, I think the one thing that stands out to me on timing of any of this is really the timing itself. That's what freaks me out about it. What else scares me about this kind of thing is the tabletops. In 2023, at the end of the year, or maybe it was 2022, I think it was the end of 2023, I believe that is correct, right around the same time period, yes it was, because it was almost exactly 4 years later, after 2019, going into 2019 maybe, they did a tabletop very much similar. And they put a very specific scenario out in this tabletop exercise that kind of painted a picture. The new one essentially says it would affect younger people more than older people. Well, this new thing that's popping out, that's exactly what they're saying it's doing. There's a lot of things that are kind of lining up here that really we're hoping wouldn't. In fact, all of us were praying that something like this would not happen. A lot of us are hoping that we don't end up in 2019 all over again. Most people have the belief that, oh, well, if this is any kind of shady business, then they couldn't possibly do it again. People are too smart now. People would know right away. Well, if you have something that's the real deal that, some people talked about that stuff that just came up missing, something like that Honda, 57% rate. Perish. So if something like that popped up, I don't think people would be questioning it. I think they would just be scared. And I'm sure if you knew a few people in your personal circle, not this time like I don't know anybody, but this time like I know 3 people this week that have perished from this, I know this would immediately change things. And people would immediately do whatever they said. And immediately they would go, okay, well, we need to change how the world is run because we can't ever have this happen again. I bet you that would be the case if it was a real, super dangerous thing. And the thing is the structure of it, now the authorities have basically gone through this whole thing already. They've already had a full-on run. They've been able to experience what happens when they end up giving these orders, when they end up doing these things. Now just imagine it happens again, but this time much, much worse. I mean, we're talking 1,000 times worse. They're saying that this mysterious illness in the Republic of Congo has been dubbed Disease X. And there have been over 400 cases and up to 143 people perishing linked to the illness since late October. That's again in just the last month and a half. On Sunday, the W and the H and the O provided an update on this X, indicating the illness has been reported in the Kwango province in the southwest part of Central African country. They said Panzi Health Zone in Kwango province of the Republic of Congo recorded 406 cases of an undiagnosed disease with symptoms of fever, headache, cough, runny nose, and body ache. The W and the H and the O wrote in the disease outbreak report. It says rapid response teams have been deployed to identify the cause of this break and strengthen the response. The teams are collecting samples for laboratory testing, providing a more detailed clinical characterization of the detected cases, investigating the transmission dynamics, and actively searching for additional cases, both within health facilities and at the community level. If you think back to something like Ebola, or when some of it came to the United States back, I think it was late 80s or early 90s when that happened. It was like nobody could believe that it happened at the time. And even a lot of mistakes happened because people thought, oh, no, that's like 1 in a million. With this kind of thing, this is a very creepy thing when they start talking about it and they just don't stop. A lot of these things they have kind of brushed by. They'll talk about it for 3 or 4 days, and then maybe it'll be brought up again, like the pox was talked about. This keeps popping up. It just keeps kind of hanging out there. And that's what makes me nervous. And specifically not only with the whole tabletop thing, but also with, of course, the timing. Very, very creepy stuff. Dex, I mean, could you imagine... Let's just say hypothetically this is totally organic and something popped out. I guess some would even say that it would be a good thing because all of the countries in the world have now practiced for almost this exact thing. It turns out what we went through, according to even official sources, that what happened in 2019, I think it should be a fact that it wasn't as bad as they originally thought, right? Everybody's got their side theories of what happened, how it happened, if it was made, who made it, whatever. But again, now, I guess people would almost be thanking them, right?
Well, and what about the fact that potentially people are numb to this, right? And if it is legit and it is real, or something like that comes around and it has a massive effect and people ignore it, then what happens, right? They ignore it because they were, once bitten, twice shy, right? So that's a scary thing that can happen too when you think about the psychological effects of what we went through against what it really was, or what it appears to be after the fact, versus when they tell us there's something else coming. Will people just roll their eyes and ignore it, or will they actually do something? And should they, is the big question that everybody's going to ask, right?
Well, and think about it, like last time even, at first everybody was scared. And I've talked to some of you that said, oh, I never wore a covering. I will admit, when I was following this and at the first patient and everything that was being put out, I was sanitizing all of my groceries in the very, very, very beginning. I was, of course, most of it too. It doesn't matter what you say your personal thoughts are. We had kids. Like, if I could not think, what if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, and this was as bad as they were saying originally, because we didn't know anything. And they showed us pictures and videos of people in China, shaking on beds and foaming at the mouth and all of this stuff. They showed us all of that. People in doorways and bags lined up along the street. So we didn't know. I know a lot of people that, I even know people that are on the public tip that they never wore a covering and all this, and they've admitted that they did, that they totally covered up. But as far as the longer it went on, the more confident we grew, and we're like, okay, something is up with this, right? But in the very beginning, a lot of people were scared. But this time around, what if nobody covers and it just goes like wildfire and it ends up being the real thing? And that was almost, what if somebody could say that would be the purpose of the first one and make sure that and they make it official, like, yeah, this wasn't what we thought. And then the next time it comes around, it's like they're going to be like the boy who cried wolf. and then it just wipes things out. I had a brief thought of the what was that? The Stonehenge thing. What was that? The monument. What was that thing that somebody took out? That's
Georgia Guidestones.
The Guidestones. I had a brief flash of that. I don't know why that flashed in my head, but it had this guide of having less than 500,000 people on planet Earth. And I was thinking, gosh, what if that was some sort of real goal out there, that the people up above would rather have that? I mean, that's just a creepy, creepy thought. Again, like you just said, what if the real thing happens and nobody cares? Everybody's like, BS. And it just immediately goes through the entire world population. That would be scary. Is that likely? Probably not. And before we move on, if any of these things, obviously you guys know, I was 100% warning about CV. That you can go back to the videos through 2019. You can see I followed it from the beginning. I don't get the same feeling about this. The only thing I get the same feeling about this X thing is the timing and about the exercises. I mean, it looks like it's history repeating itself. But besides that, in the case of just general preparing, I told everybody to prepare. We said, hey, go get yourself some food, go get yourself some stuff. So many people thanked us when that actually did happen, and mainly it wasn't because their neighbors were getting wiped out left and right. It was because their neighbors were overbuying at the store. When CV happened, there were lines miles long to go to Costco to even try to get yourself a roll of toilet paper or to get food. The entire store was cleaned out of canned foods and anything storable. Grocery stores, you couldn't find milk and eggs for periods of time. And the people that thanked us the most were the people that had all of these things when it got to that point. Not because they, wouldn't have survived otherwise. It was because they didn't have to deal with all of that. People have thanked us when they went through North Carolina stormed. The North Carolina storms, we had Fugel fam that were actually prepped for it and waited out 11 days worth of, no power and everything else because they had food. So that's why we recommend this. It's not because of the end of the world. It's not because of anything crazy. It could be something that is regional, that knocks out your power in your neighborhood. I just personally went through a 6-day power outage and we had food. We had all of this stuff covered. We had gaps in our prep and we are now fixing them. But again, most all of you are going to find those every single time. One thing that you should not have as a gap is not having enough food and not having enough water. Go over and check out marfugelnews.com/prep. This is one of the most affordable ways to get bulk food and freeze-dried food. This is going to last 25 plus years. This will be good until, again, 2052. So go check it out, marfugelnews.com/prep. You can get a 3-month deal, and then all of these affiliates all have had their Black Friday sales, and of course, a lot of these end up having all sorts of deals go on up until Christmas. So make sure to go check out what the current deal is at marfugelnews.com/prep. And then, of course, Dex, let's go over. U.S. announces nearly $1 billion more in longer-term weapons support for Ukraine.
Where is this money coming from? I mean, I thought we had covered this a long time ago that they were out and they had scrapped together a few $100 million more, and that was going to be the last of it. And they maybe found a little bit more because of accounting errors, and that was the last of it. Now they found $1 billion.
Wait, say it one more time.
United States, $1 billion.
Oh, my echo didn't work. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. But the United States will provide nearly $1 billion more in long-term weapons support to Ukraine, according to Lloyd Austin, who said over the weekend, as they're rushing to spend all the congressional approved money, that's apparently they didn't spend it all, that it has left to bolster Kiev before the dawn takes effect next month. So the latest package will include more drones, munitions for the HIMARS systems, the ATACMS, that the U.S. has provided. While those weapons are critically needed now, they will be funded through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, which pays for the longer-term systems to be put on contract. probably the system that probably pays somebody to sit over there from the U.S. and push the buttons and deal with the coordinates, because we know all of those things actually have to be run by our military, not just, you can't just it's not like handing them over an RPG and say, go take it and use it, just aim, point, and shoot. It's not that simple. So, but anyway, billions of dollars now, just add it to the stockpile. This is coming from the Pentagon, who can't come up with a balanced audit, can't even audit itself, and 7 times in a row, and it's failed. Can't account for billions and billions of dollars. Well, we can account for this. They're sending another billion over to Ukraine, and we're all supposed to just be happy with it.
It's like the U.S. Gov has one of those sticky hands, and they're just waiting for us to walk by, and they're going whoosh, and grabbing $1 out of each of your pockets. Just whoosh, aha. Go ahead.
How many more do you think they'll do between now and late January? I mean, do we think they'll find more?
My guess is 3, but I also think that something might happen beforehand. Like I've said many times, one day can change everything. If something escalates like way higher than it is now, I mean, look at what's lining up though. Look at what's going on with China, and Russia now has Bashar al-Assad chilling in their palace. I guarantee it. Bashar al-Assad is probably kicking it with Putin in the same room. He's probably in his man cave watching TV. So something's going on. That's not going to be taken lightly. If we took all the BS out, I bet that they're sitting there going, okay, the U.S. is behind this, and they're now pissed at the U.S. I'm surprised we haven't seen Russian headlines saying the U.S. is 1,000% behind it. If not, we probably will over the next week.
Yeah, I'm just shocked. I was expecting, we found 100 million here, we found 100 million there, but $1 billion. Like, where did that come from?
They're popping tags. We ain't gonna pop tags. They're like, oh no, we didn't give them $1 million. We gave them 100 billion. Oh, so now because of that, we didn't give them $8 billion. We did the prices wrong. He labeled them wrong. The labeler was out of ink. We actually only gave him $1 million. So we found another $999 million for him.
Apparently, they put the first tranche in Bitcoin many years ago, and now they're cashing it in, and they can send more.
Yeah, exactly. They put it in Doge. Wouldn't that be ironic?
Yeah.
And then Syrian government services come to a complete halt as state workers stay home after rebel takeover. Is that their way of saying that there is no state services? They're staying home. Can you imagine, Dex, think about them going into the office to an empty building and just being like, or the one person, it's like, where's my stapler? I just want my stapler. Like he's just sitting there working. Nobody's there. The computer's off.
Or they're taking cues from the American government workers, because apparently all of them work from home all the time and never go in the office. Something like, 17% actually show up to work now.
Well, I guess we'll see what ends up happening with this whole thing. We'll see what goes down. But they're saying after this whole takeover, if you haven't seen the video we just did over on Marfoogle News, we covered all of this. And again, I think it's a bunch of tomfoolery. I think that this is straight up an op. May not be a bad op. Maybe in the long run, maybe there's some good intentions here. I don't know. All I'm saying is this is most definitely the West helped these guys. And what's messed up is that the guys that they helped, this guy that they're PR departmenting into some sort of revolutionary, I don't think he's the one who got these other groups involved. I think somebody wrote a check. And funny too, what if they're saying they're sending it to somewhere like UKR, and then UKR actually takes that and funnels it through to somebody else, like to the different groups that they just had take over Syria. Or what if that's what the previous 2 payments went to, and then this one is money or something. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, this is one, Adam, that we should look to Turkey for, because as much as they're an ally to the West, they are also a huge supporter of the opposition there. So if you think about how, I said in the other show, where are they getting these new weapons and how are they building their military stronger and better? Well, it's coming from the West, obviously, but it's not coming in through Iran. Iran wouldn't allow that. They're against us. So you got to look to somebody that has inroads there, like Turkey and other countries in the region that can help. And I think they are probably one of the bigger supporters and probably the path in which we went.
So I don't know how close it is when the United States says like, oh, we're sending $375 million. That's a transfer. Just think about it in this term. Have you guys noticed that these massive events happen after giant transfers? In the past year, they sent $375 million or something. What if that money was actually redirected somehow? You got 100 million to this small army or to this group or to that group, 20 million to this, 20 million to that, 20, heck, $1 billion is enough to fund a conflict. Probably not a long one, but who knows how many groups they could get all around the world. I just wonder how long it will take before we'll end up finding out, all of these other groups were kind of paid or they're paid in such a way that they don't know that they're getting it from somebody. They're just saying, oh, this is funds from this person or that person, but that person's actually getting a check cut to them from the United States. Was there any other transactions? Is there a way to see? Was there any big, like you said a second ago, what if there was crypto transactions? All of a sudden, right after a couple months ago, they said $375 million to them. They send it to them. And then all of a sudden, there's all of these transactions to all these different groups. You can't see that because there's constantly stuff moving around. But one thing I want to point out is if there is any corruption, then every time you see a big thing where, hey, $1 billion is getting transferred, think about where that could go and think about what that could fund. It could fund a regime change, or it could fund this or that. We don't know because we're not told the truth at all. They call it classified. I mean, they have lied in classified, only minus the L. Well, you just have to rearrange it. You get what I mean.
Well, what about all the dark or black money, whatever you want to call it, the money that's
Black
not
project.
accounted for? Yeah, all that stuff, the funding of this, the funding of that, the money that's made from, the trade of illegal stuff that goes through different, operations that are through 3-letter agencies and whatnot, all that stuff. There's tons of money. There's tons of money that goes around that we don't know a thing about.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Does it make you wonder? Let me know in the comments down below. And by the way, thank you, and thank you, Kenny Crowder. I appreciate your support tonight. Thank you. Also, go check out Harvest Right if you haven't already. If you want to freeze dry your own stuff rather than getting pre-packaged, you can save a ton of money. Again, now they have extended, and the only reason we mention this is because they specifically extended their Black Friday sale. So that actually only goes until the 31st. So make sure to get in on it. Previous years, they've extended it for like 10 days or 12 days. This year, they're extending it to that. So if you did want to get into freeze drying, Black Friday is when most people get in. Just like if you're trying to buy a new big screen TV, most people wait until Black Friday. If you're trying to get into this, the actual hardware, it's not cheap because this is hardware that will last for years and years and years, and you can then make yourself completely independent as far as making your own freeze-dried food. You don't have to buy the prepackaged stuff, which is extremely expensive. Prepackaged freeze-dried food. I mean, if you've ever been trying to get just a single meal, they range from $9 to $15 for just a meal. If you're trying to get 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of food for your entire family, you are going to quickly know that that is a fortune. If you do it this way, you will be able to save an entirely huge chunk of money. It will end up paying for itself depending on what size family you have in a matter of a month or 2 months. So It depends on how much you want to have for your family. If you want a lot and you have a big family, then this is definitely the way to go. Up to $900 off. MarfoogleNews.com/freeze, but at the very least, if you don't have anything, at least go over and try to enter to win. MarfoogleNews.com/freeze. Again, you can enter to win one if not. All right. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. Thank you for being the top supporter tonight. Thank you this week, Lisa Douglas. Thank you, Swetnam Ministries. Thank you, Inquiring Minds, Colby Wilson, Stephen McMahon. If you guys enjoyed this show, hit the like button. It helps. Again, it helps end up sharing this and recommending it to somebody else. Every time one of you guys hits that like button, again, it helps somebody else be brought into the fold. So please do that if you can. If you see the work we put into it, I don't know how many shows put bibliographies on every single show and have an archive like we do, but it does take a lot of work. If you guys can share us out with somebody else, that's all we ask. So we appreciate it. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com where you have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we talked about here today. Not only that, you have, and I'm so glad. I should have put it on the show. So, by the way, I want to, in remembrance to those of you that know or have somebody in the family or in some cases were a part of Pearl Harbor, on the 7th, it was a Saturday, so we were not on, the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. I wanted to bring up one of the earliest cases of predictive programming. And actually, so there's a bigger part to this, which I actually see this one as far crazier than the other. There were 2 pages ads in the New Yorker for a game called The Deadly Double. If you guys know about this, then you know. But there was such a crazy thing here. Back in 1941, the New Yorker put out a magazine, and it had this whole 2-page spread, separate ads in the New Yorker, that essentially was a teaser for a game called Deadly Double, a dice game. And it was put out right before, and it said, Ashtung, warning, alert. And it showed 12/7, right? December 7th. And some people looked at the XX as 20, as the latitude. A lot of people clash on. Now, if you look this up, people will say, oh, that's been debunked. They say that the person who made the game, that their widow even said, I couldn't believe the absurdity that people thought that this was a warning. Well, some people actually thought, back then even, that this was some sort of agent, like a message giving basically a signal, putting this in the newspaper or in the New Yorker, the magazine, essentially activating agents, right? That's what people thought. They're going to tell you, oh, it was a complete coincidence. It was such a crazy thing. They also had an ad of them in a bunker saying, oh, what are the things that we should have on hand? Maybe we should get our stuff together. But if you go look it up, you can go down that rabbit hole. It is pretty crazy because it was right before all of this went down. And you look at today and you look at all of these events, and it's so crazy that we can find human-made art or movies or magazines where you have so many signs of things to come. And it makes you wonder, with all of the entertainment that we have now, I almost wonder if there truly is this much predictive programming and it's just a coincidence. What if people are getting messages, like they don't know that they're communicating and warning people? Like what if they're actually dreaming about something to come? What if they have information? What if God is telling them about this and subconsciously they're putting it out, not knowing that they're warning people about things? But yeah, it's definitely a kickback. Obviously, you guys have seen some of the Simpsons episodes where they, show 9 and 1 and 1 on a paper, and it shows 2 towers. I mean, there's so many instances of this throughout history, and it really makes me wonder, are these actual warnings that just humans don't know that they're doing? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about predictive programming? Do you think there is such a thing, and do you think that it is real and that this happens? Or do you think it's, purposeful placement, subliminally put there on purpose? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, this sucks. My 18-year-old, again, brought home stuff sickness, and she's been super, super sick. Not sick enough to, to worry, but sick enough to where we know it's about to go through the entire house. And I am downstairs and kind of in the sick zone. And man, oh man, I can already feel it coming on. You know that taste that you have in the back of your throat when you're about to get sick? I'm not looking forward to that. And the nasal thing that happens in that taste. So just forewarning, I feel like I'm about to get sick. I can already tell. I almost always have that taste. But before we do, we're going to have a fun time tonight. And it is now time for the outro. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate everything you do.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And you guys have a wonderful night. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. It is now time for the outro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.